Today's guest on Talk to Al Jazeera is Mahmoud Abbas, president of the Palestinian Authority. He's a man at the center of one of the world's most intractable conflicts. He was a founder member of the Fatah movement and earlier this year played a vital role in the creation of the Palestinian Unity Government. Finally, it seemed politicians from Fatah and rivals Hamas were working together. But since then, the Palestinian state has been plunged into a deep crisis. The world has watched as tension between Hamas and Fatah turned violent, leaving dozens of Palestinians dead. Many more have been killed in renewed Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip. President Abbas gave this exclusive interview to Al Jazeera's Nour.
Mr. President, after the signing of the Mecca Agreement and the formation of the National Unity Government, a lot of people thought there would be hope for an end to internal violence and also a lifting of that choking international siege. Neither has happened. We've seen a resurgence of internal clashes and also the siege has not been lifted. Do you think this Mecca Agreement needs to be revisited or maybe even changed?
We must uphold the Mecca Agreement as it did not come about from a void. It was preceded by many proposals and understandings, in addition to many endeavors exerted in Damascus, Doha, Egypt and many other Arab capitals, until the agreement was reached in Mecca after the eruption of internal violence. This agreement yielded two results. First, the internal truce among the Palestinian factions, and second, the unity government. I can say we expected the truce to hold and the unity government to stand on its feet. Here I can say that the truce faced some obstacles, including the one that took place 2 weeks ago, which regretfully carried some dark days that we managed to get past. We cannot say such turmoil is natural, but it could have been expected. Currently all efforts are directed towards stabilizing the domestic affairs, then moving towards a joint action to put the security plan into effect, in order to control the domestic front and bring lawlessness to an end. In addition, there are plans for a ceasefire with the Israelis, which is an independent matter. As for the unity government, we expected the siege to be swiftly lifted. I cannot say the siege is still in place, but it is starting to get lifted, and the proof is that the finance minister can now receive any monies through banks and dispense of it as his will. Thus the siege is easing. We cannot claim it is completely lifted, though. Some argue we should get rid of the unity government because it hasn't been effective in the last 2 months. But this is not the right response, nor is it a positive one.
You talk about the security plan, and a lot in the Palestinian public would say that it would be very difficult for them to believe that a security plan is possible. It's possible to implement it when the security officers of those very forces that need to bring back law and order were the ones involved in clashes that ended with the killing of scores of civilians aside from those members of the security forces.
Here we must speak of national reconciliation rather than discord. If an internal fight took place, we cannot claim that all efforts are useless and seek an end to the system. If we embrace this attitude, we will derail. Internal fighting must be avoided, and above all, we must educate our people to steer away from this, because the killing, destruction and assault is not part of our culture. This is the safest and only route to follow. If we stick to the meaningless slogans of no hope, we will get nowhere. We do not think such slogans are viable, nor will they help our people to weather the storm they're currently suffering.
The executive force, it was controversial when it was first set up. Whose orders does it follow now, and do you still consider it illegal?
The executive force was set up with my approval and a decision by the Interior Minister, but it was not set up under the name of the executive force. I allowed the Interior Minister to recruit from Hamas and other factions to work in the apparatuses of the Interior Ministry, namely the police, preventive security, civil defense, etc., even in the national security apparatus. However, the former Interior Minister named it the Executive Force, and at that time I issued a decree that this body, under this name, was unlawful. Any new force must be set up with a decree, which is not the case of the Executive Force, and there is no argument over the illegality of this force, whether it's engaged in infighting or not. The end result is that it is not recognized as a lawful force. Therefore, the executive force must be integrated within the security apparatuses, unless a decree is handed down, which would require amending the law, and I don't intend to do that.
At the moment, there are talks in Cairo with Fatah delegations and Hamas delegations. If those talks don't work, if the violence between Fatah and Hamas cannot be brought under control, what then?
Sometimes it's difficult but not impossible to maintain control. No faction could claim it cannot control its members, so these factions are capable of controlling their members and gunmen. For example, rockets are currently being fired, and I cannot understand that these rockets are launched arbitrarily. There must be specific orders given for their launch. For that reason, we talk to the leaders to stop firing the rockets. Until now, we have not received any positive answer.
Mr. President, you're of the opinion that a ceasefire with Israel has to be reached, starting with the Gaza Strip and then extending to the West Bank. You will be meeting Ehud Olmert, the Israeli Prime Minister, on the 7th of June, and many are questioning why would you meet an Israeli Prime Minister who has such low popularity levels, who many would consider is not able to deliver anything to you in that meeting?
I am not concerned with Ehud Olmert's popularity. What matters to me is that this man is the elected Israeli Prime Minister until now. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, but so long as he is the Israeli Prime Minister, I will have to deal with him. We have many pending issues with the Israelis, starting with the checkpoints and ending with the political solution.
But are you able to solve those problems or to reach some sort of solution with Ehud Olmert right now?
Even if he is not capable of resolving issues, we are not in a position to tell him, since you are incapable, we're not willing to meet with you. This is not our business, yet we must try once, twice, and so on. This is what politics is all about. It's not possible for us to stop talking to a party with whom we have thousands of pending problems and wait until he gets power. What if this does not happen? We dealt with Ariel Sharon, Ishaq Rabin, Netanyahu, Barak, and in the future we might deal with Netanyahu or others.
Is there any guarantee that the Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh, will not be assassinated or targeted right now?
Now Israel threatens Ismail Haniyeh and many Hamas leaders. They have carried through with these threats before, and they will continue to target leaders now. The proof is that during previous ceasefires, Prime Minister Ismail Haniyeh was moving freely and travelling abroad. Now he does not have such freedom, and he is entitled to take precautions. For that reason, he could not preside over the last cabinet meeting. Assurances will be obtained once an agreement is reached. If no agreement is reached, no assurance could be obtained. We should start from our side by stopping the launch of rockets. This throws the ball into the Israeli court, and any Israeli attack or air raid becomes unjustified from their perspective or that of the international community, as the international community questions us, and we answer that we are under attack, and they reply that we also launch rockets. I drafted all these points in a 10-point document and presented it to the Palestinian factions. There's no positive reaction yet. I expressed my views on launching rockets before, and I've called them frivolous, and I stand by my position. Once we stop firing rockets, we can tell the Israelis to stop the air raids, artillery barrage, and incursions.
عندما نوقف إطلاق الصواريخ تصبح الكرة في الملعب الإسرائيلي.
Is Israel trying to topple the national unity government through its actions right now?
يعني أنا أعرف تماما أن حكومة إسرائيل
I am aware with regret that both the US administration and the government of Israel do not approve of the unity government. And I'm also aware that certain players in the various Palestinian factions are also not happy with the unity government. But we cannot give up. We must defend and support this government. Otherwise, the consequence will be devastation and catastrophe. There would be grave repercussions. It's not about early elections. It could be the end of the Palestinian Authority. Israel may be working towards ending the Palestinian Authority and bringing about a political vacuum.